Bloodstained tiles, a shocking discovery. Clear Lake City, Texas, July 2003. A stench of death hung heavy in the air, emanating from a modest suburban home. Stepping inside, police were met with a sight that would forever be etched in their memories. A bloodbath that spoke of unimaginable violence. The victims? Two young couples, their lives brutally extinguished. The walls, the furniture, even the air itself seemed to scream of the horror that had unfolded. The community was shaken to its core. Whispers of disbelief and fear snaked through the manicured lawns and backyard fences of Clear Lake City. Who could have committed such a heinous act? And why? The answer lay buried in a twisted tale of teenage love, crippling insecurity, and a thirst for revenge. At the heart of this macabre puzzle was a young woman named Christine Paolilla. The idyllic facade of Clear Lake City had been shattered, replaced by the chilling realization that evil could lurk even in the most unexpected places. A child's torment, living with alopecia. Christine Paolilla's journey into darkness wasn't a sudden descent. It was a gradual erosion that began in her childhood. Born with alopecia, Christine's early years were marked by a constant feeling of being different. She endured the whispers, the curious glances, the cruel taunts of other children. The wigs she wore became a constant reminder of her difference, a physical manifestation of her inner turmoil. The world saw her only for what she lacked, not for the person she was within. This constant feeling of otherness chipped away at her self-esteem, leaving her vulnerable and craving acceptance. It was a hunger that gnawed at her, a void she desperately sought to fill. This vulnerability, coupled with the emotional turmoil of adolescence, created a dangerous cocktail. As Christine grew older, the emotional scars of her childhood trauma deepened. She retreated further into herself, seeking solace in a world of fantasy and make-believe. Teenage angst and first love, the tumultuous relationship with Chris Snider. The story of Christine and Chris is one that many can relate to, a tale of young love filled with passion, confusion, and heartbreak. It's a story that begins with the innocence of youth and the excitement of first love, but quickly spirals into a whirlwind of emotional turmoil. It was during these turbulent teenage years that Christine met Chris Snider. Christine, a shy and introverted girl, was instantly captivated by Chris. He was older, more experienced, and had an air of mystery about him that she found irresistible. Their first meeting was like a scene from a movie, filled with dramatic tension and an undeniable spark. He was older, charismatic, and seemingly confident. Everything she felt she wasn't. Chris had a way of making her feel special, like she was the only person in the world that mattered. His confidence was intoxicating, and Christine found herself drawn to him like a moth to a flame. To Christine, he was a beacon of hope, a lifeline in a sea of insecurity. She had always struggled with self-esteem issues, and Chris seemed to be the answer to all her problems. He made her feel seen, heard, and valued in a way that no one else ever had. Their relationship, intense and all-consuming, became her world. Christine poured all her energy and emotions into their relationship, often neglecting her own needs and desires in the process. She was willing to do anything to keep Chris happy, even if it meant sacrificing her own happiness. But their relationship, like the stormy seas, was prone to sudden shifts and treacherous currents. One moment, they would be blissfully happy, and the next, they would be caught in a tempest of arguments and misunderstandings. The highs were incredibly high, but the lows were devastatingly low. Chris, it turned out, was battling his own demons. He had a troubled past that he rarely spoke about, and his unresolved issues often manifested in destructive ways. Christine tried to be his rock, but she was ill-equipped to handle the depth of his emotional struggles. He was prone to fits of anger, his moods unpredictable, his affections inconsistent. One moment, he would shower Christine with love and attention, and the next, he would lash out at her for the smallest of reasons. This emotional roller coaster left Christine constantly on edge, never knowing what to expect. Christine, desperate to hold on to the love and acceptance she craved, found herself drawn deeper into his web. She believed that if she just loved him enough, she could fix him. She could be the one to save him from his demons. But in reality, she was losing herself in the process. Her friends and family saw the warning signs. They watched helplessly as Christine became more and more entangled in Chris's toxic web. They saw how her once vibrant personality was being overshadowed by the constant stress and anxiety of their relationship. They saw how Chris's possessiveness chipped away at Christine's already fragile self-esteem. He would often isolate her from her friends and family, making her feel like he was the only person she could rely on. This isolation only deepened her dependence on him. They tried to warn her, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. Christine was so blinded by her love for Chris that she couldn't see the danger she was in. She believed that their love was special, that it was worth fighting for, even if it meant enduring the pain and heartache. Christine, blinded by her own insecurities, couldn't see the danger she was in. She was so focused on trying to make the relationship work that she ignored all the red flags. She convinced herself that things would get better, that Chris would change, that their love would conquer all. Each fight, each reconciliation only served to tighten the knot of their toxic bond, drawing them closer to disaster. The cycle of conflict and resolution became a twisted dance that neither of them could break free from. Their relationship was like a ticking time bomb, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. The emotional toll on Christine was immense. She often found herself crying alone in her room, feeling utterly lost and hopeless. The person she once was seemed like a distant memory, replaced by someone who was constantly anxious and afraid. Chris would often apologize after their fights, bringing flowers and promising to change. These moments of peace were like a balm to Christine's wounded heart, giving her a glimmer of hope that things might actually get better. But these moments were fleeting, and the cycle would soon start all over again. Christine would look back at old photos of happier times, clinging to the memories of when things were good. She would tell herself that those moments were proof that their love was real, that it was worth fighting for. But deep down, she knew that those moments were becoming fewer and farther between. Her friends and family eventually staged an intervention, desperate to save her from the toxic relationship. They pleaded with her to see the truth, to recognize the damage that was being done to her. It was a painful and emotional confrontation, but it was necessary. Christine finally made the difficult decision to leave Chris. It was one of the hardest things she had ever done, but she knew it was the only way to save herself. The road to recovery was long and challenging, but with the support of her loved ones, she slowly began to rebuild her life. In the end, Christine found the strength and independence she had always been searching for. She learned that true love starts with loving yourself, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a toxic relationship. Her story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of self-love. The delicate balance of their tumultuous relationship was shattered with the arrival of Rachael Koloroutis. Vibrant, outgoing, and confident, Rachael was everything Christine felt she wasn't. Jealousy, green-eyed and venomous, began to fester within Christine, poisoning her thoughts. Rachael's presence in Chris's life was like a crack in the foundation of Christine's world. The laughter they shared felt like a personal attack, a confirmation of her deepest fears. The more time Chris spent with Rachael, the more Christine retreated into herself. She saw Rachael as a rival, a threat to the fragile happiness she had constructed. The situation escalated when Chris confessed to Christine that he had cheated on her with Rachael. The news hit Christine like a physical blow, shattering her already fragile self-esteem. Driven by a potent cocktail of rage, heartbreak, and a desperate need for revenge, Christine began to spiral. She couldn't bear the thought of Chris choosing Rachael over her. The seeds of a deadly plan began to take root in her mind. As Christine's world crumbled, she sought refuge in drugs, using them to numb the pain. The drugs offered a temporary reprieve, a fleeting sense of control. But the relief they provided was illusory, pushing her further down the rabbit hole of despair. It was during this dark period that she met Justin Rott. Like Christine, Justin was lost, adrift in a sea of anger and resentment. They found solace in each other's pain, their shared rage forging a toxic bond. Together, they plotted and schemed, their conversations growing increasingly dark. The idea of revenge took on a life of its own, fueled by their shared rage and amplified by the drugs. They convinced themselves that their victims deserved to be punished. The line between right and wrong became blurred, distorted by their warped sense of justice. Their plan, fueled by drugs, despair, and a shared delusion of grandeur, began to take on a terrifying clarity. The air hung heavy with humidity on July 18, 2003. Christine and Justin, their faces pale and drawn, made their way to the unsuspecting home of Rachael Koloroutis. Each step they took was a step further away from their humanity. The details of what transpired that day are too gruesome to recount in full. Suffice it to say, the peaceful suburban home was transformed into a scene of unimaginable carnage. 4 lives were brutally extinguished that day: Rachael Koloroutis, Tiffany Rowell, Marcus Priscilla, and Adalbert Sanchez. The brutality of the murders sent shockwaves through the community. This wasn't just a crime of passion, it was a cold, calculated execution. The idyllic facade of Clear Lake City had been shattered, replaced by the chilling reality that evil could lurk even in the most unexpected places. The investigation into the Clear Lake City murders was swift and relentless. The police, faced with a crime scene of such shocking brutality, were determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. Their investigation led them to Christine Paolilla, the seemingly quiet girl next door. Christine initially played the role of the grieving friend, feigning shock and disbelief. She wove a convincing narrative, portraying herself as a victim of circumstance, but her performance began to unravel under the scrutiny of experienced detectives. The cracks in her story became gaping holes as the evidence mounted against her. The police discovered the murder weapon, a gun, hidden in Christine's possession. They uncovered her connection to Justin Rott, whose own history of violence painted a damning picture. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Christine's carefully crafted mask began to slip. She was no longer the grieving friend, but the prime suspect, her every word, every gesture, scrutinized under the harsh glare of the interrogation room spotlight.